What did I get myself into? Who was I even talking to? And that note that was attached to that brick. Damn it, I feel so disoriented by this entire thing, and the day hasn't even ended yet. I should start from the beginning. Yeah, that's a good place. I have no clue where else to start anyway. By profession, I'm a journalist. I also have degrees in computer science and linguistics, but journalism has always been my first passion as a career. The little overachiever my parents call me. Perhaps they have a point. I graduated from college at age 19 with honors, largely because I graduated from high school at age 16. In my defense, I am mildly autistic. It was tough to pull off. I'll admit as much. By now, I couldn't care less if it takes years for people to figure it out. Being young gives me an edge, though. More experienced people tend to be eager to tell younger people what they've witnessed or what they know. I still use my computer science degree, though. As a hobby, I engage in ethical hacking, and as part of my job, I use the dark web. By now, many people have heard of the dark web. It's not dark as in nefarious, it's dark as in people are in the dark as to your identity. Most of what happens on the dark web is perfectly legal. In fact, the Arab Spring had a little help from the dark web. It was a slow day for me. My boss felt I needed to slow down, seeing as I'd produced quite a few hard-hitting pieces that did well. So I had a chance to rest for a while under boss's orders. So there I was, Monday morning, and with nothing to do for an entire week. Knowing myself, I have a habit of going nuts when I'm bored. So I decided to open up the browser I use to access the dark web. It didn't take me too long to get to my go-to places where I started on the dark web. There's seemingly always somewhere to go and someone to talk to. Many of the communities are pretty alternative, not that it's a bad thing. Any idea isn't by definition bad just because it falls outside of the mainstream. So, I go further into the forums. A few required a bit of typical hacker stuff to get into, but it didn't matter. The post still made me giggle a little bit. A few of my coworkers even looked over my shoulder to see what I was looking at when they stopped by. The thing about forums like these is that you can get lost in them just reading the posts on the message boards, and that happened to me. Before I knew it, lunchtime had rolled around, and then it was 3 o'clock. I effectively wasted much of the day, just as my boss planned for me to do. There were a couple of hours left before it was time to go home, so I still had time to see if there was anything interesting to investigate. I pressed on, and soon found myself in a forum I had never been on before. I don't remember precisely how I got there. Perhaps that was the point. Many dark websites are found by a combination of luck and curiosity. And there are so many layers to the dark web to begin with. It doesn't matter, and it didn't matter when I found it either. All I could focus on was the name of the forum, Black Bubble. Right next to the name was an actual black bubble. Clearly the logo had been done up with Photoshop, since black bubbles don't actually exist. But the name Black Bubble itself was a little odd. It sounded like some sort of cliched name for a black magic cult or something. Names aside, I had never seen or been on the Black Bubble forum before, and I wasn't about to leave it either. That's what you do when you're a journalist and have new sources of potential leads. I started scrolling through the page. Some of the post titles were some of the strangest I had ever come across, and I also found myself posting some responses of scoring myself a lead for a good story. I Wish to Be Dissolved was among the more memorable posts. It was posted by someone apparently wishing to have her skin cut off and dissolved in acid. The disturbing implications about the mental state of the poster were the least of it. I didn't even get the point. Why would someone even want to try? Of course, I just had to post a reply, even if I knew nobody would reply to my questions. The next one I replied to that was particularly memorable was titled, "Help, I think I have Jerusalem Syndrome." I already knew what that was. It's a mental phenomenon where people get these religious-themed ideas after visiting Jerusalem. I never met someone suffering from it, and I was under the impression that the people who had it were psychotic. So I replied asking for more information. There were so many posts, but there were only a few that perked up my interest to the point where I posted a reply. I Know How to Kill Knowledge was one, which had some of the most complex instructions I'd ever seen. I wasn't about to try them out, but I still wanted to have a good story. There were also ones I didn't reply to, but still stood out as being memorable. I don't remember what This Is Where the Bad Kids Go entailed, but it still made me laugh. There's a creepypasta out there called Where the Bad Kids Go, which I had stumbled on when I did a feature on internet horror stories, and the list went on and on. Eventually, I realized that time really had passed, a good 90 minutes or so. It was obvious that I needed to take anything I saw on the Black Bubble forum with a grain of salt, but it still made me excited to talk to the people who might respond to me. With the workday soon coming to an end, I decided to return to the top of the forum, just so I could see the website a bit more. I think I just wanted to see the logo again. I made sure to bookmark the link so I could return to it, and with that, I closed out my browser, sat back in my chair, and stretched out my chest. The rest of the day at work wasn't unusual. Typical emails, office small talk, and more. The commute from New York City to my home in my small Westchester County town was also mind-numbingly normal as far as the New York metro area is concerned. I arrived home and quickly got changed into my PJs. I then stuck a ham quiche in the microwave, turned on the TV, and started eating it along with a few blueberries. It was a typical evening routine, even for a slow day. The news was as normal as ever, too. But I guess that's relative these days. There's always something to panic over or have compassion for or feel rage over. As a journalist, I find that such things as the current events of the day annoying. I may have made journalism my career, but I did so because I wanted to expose the lesser-known issues in this world. You know, the kind that requires an investigative journalist. The beeping of my phone that told me I had a new text message startled me a bit. After all, text messages usually aren't sent my way on a Monday evening. I still opened it up. I see you found the Black Bubble forum, my dear darling Sophia Bonaparte. At that, I sat straight up. Whoever this was had just called me by name. And how did this person know I had visited the Black Bubble forum? It was on the dark web where anonymity was as close to guaranteed as anyone can get. I had made sure of it. It's a matter of personal routine. The computer thought I was all the way in Germany, and even after I got off the browser, I had checked for viruses. So how did this person know I was on that site? Before I could do anything else, another text message came in. Sophia, a good name for a good woman. I'm honored to have come in contact with you. Who are you and how do you know my name? I immediately replied back. Answers will come in time, Pilgrim. Welcome to our journey. Sweat oozed down my brow at that. I wiped it off. What kind of journey? I asked. I hoped against hope that I wouldn't get a response, but it happened anyway. A necessary one, my dear girl. Answers to your questions will be found in time. As soon as I was done reading that last message, something came crashing through the window. Glass flew every which way I could think of. Luckily, I wasn't hurt. I put my slippers on and rushed to see who or what had smashed it. I looked out the gaping empty window frame to find that two people were running away from me. It was too dark, so I couldn't get a good look at them. All I could tell was that one was male and the other was female. With how quickly they were running, there was no use in demanding that they stop. Instead, I just took a deep breath and cleaned up the glass. After putting plastic over the pane, I examined what had been used to smash my window in the first place. It was a brick with a piece of paper stuck to it with rubber bands. I would have laughed at how cliched a thing that was, but it wasn't much to laugh at in light of the situation I found myself facing. I took the piece of paper off the brick and read, "A brief history of tomorrow. When Anthrodynia rages and the earth becomes scorched with blood, that is when the progeny of the void come. The species must learn to read the road signs to survive." At that, all I could do was stare at it. That was the first time I ever heard the word Anthrodynia. I had to look it up. Apparently, it's a state of exhaustion with how terrible people can be to each other, typically causing a countervailing sense of affection for things that are sincere but not judgmental, are unabashedly joyful, or just are. But what kind of word is that to use in a message like that? But more than that, what are the progeny of the void? Coming after the earth becomes scorched with blood? Well, that's a little ominous if I do say so myself. I jumped when my phone beeped with another incoming message. With a shaking hand, I picked it up and opened the text. It was from the same number. The journey begins now, my dear darling Sophia. Good luck. It's still Monday evening. I don't have any clue as to how I'm supposed to interpret any of this. Between a stranger texting me by name and telling me what I did earlier when my identity was hidden, and my window being smashed with a brick, I don't know what to make of the note. I also don't know what I'm supposed to do. There's no way my local police can help. They wouldn't know the first thing about how to help, and that's assuming they'd believe me in the first place. Maybe there is something I can do. My boss knows I use the dark web as part of my job. In fact, he uses it for work as well. There's also a coworker I know who uses the dark web to the same extent as me, someone named Nicola Fitzmaker. I probably need to look to them for advice. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to support my channel, please consider subscribing with the button down below. Thank you to the incredible authors that allow me to narrate their stories. This author's links will be down below. If you'd like me to read your scary story, please email me at the email in the description. I hope you'll join me in the next video. Until then, bye.